Man, that was interesting to watch last night, right? I mean, we saw start first half. It was like, wow, good quarterback play. This looks pretty fun to watch. Second half was a totally different game. And the Bucs are one of those teams where I don't know. It seems like I don't know how you feel. Can't get a feel for them. Every time I think, ooh, they got it. Here we go. I see the talent and the potential. They look like one of the better teams. They come back the next week and lay an egg, and where you go, I don't know. I guess they don't have it all together. There are issues. So they're one of those teams that's very hard to figure out this year.
And let me just say this. I got a pleasant surprise last night after the game ended because I looked at our picks for last week, and I was impressed that we both had picked the exact score that the Rams would put up with 27. I had 23 for the Bucs, not 24, missed a hole-in-one by 1 point. You had 20 for the Bucs. And then I was informed that there was an accounting error. I was informed that after a further audit of the ballot counting process as it relates to our selections, somebody had transposed your numbers. You actually picked the Bucs to win.
Yeah,
so you
right.
actually didn't sweep me for last week. It was 5-1, not 5-0, so take that. But that gave me a nice little boost last night. I was feeling good. I didn't get swept by Simms. I got one game right that he got wrong. So I'm in an extra better mood today, or at least better mood than I was yesterday.
I thought, hey, I mean, I kind of like the guy. It's Thanksgiving week. Let me throw him a bone here. Let me ride this Brady bandwagon and give him a chance. No, but really, I thought the Bucs would win. I did. I thought the Bucs would play a style of football that we saw last week where we were so impressed with the Carolina Panthers, where it was a little bit more through the run and the two tight ends again. So that's where it's weird too with the Bucs. It's just like, how are they going to play? What is their style? That's where I'm kind of not sure. It's like last night they reverted a little bit back to the New Orleans Tom Brady game plan a little bit, where they were going to, appease all the weapons and we're going to get everybody the ball. But I don't know if that's necessarily the best way for the Bucs to win football games and go to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and that's a good point. It's almost like they got drawn into this, let's show what we can do under the lights in prime time. Let's address the narrative that hashtag Tommy can't get the ball down the field. And, he can't get the ball down the field. He was 1 for 9 on throws of 15 or more yards with 2 interceptions. Let's hear from head coach Bruce Arians and hashtag Tommy on last night's bad showing by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Everybody's disappointed. We played a game that we just didn't make quite enough plays to win. Everybody's ready to play. I mean, we just played a good football team and we didn't make enough plays to win. But nobody's heads down. We got a big one coming up next week. So we know where we stand, and next game's even bigger.
Tonight was very inefficient. Did not a very good job there in the second half. Defense played great. Kept coming up with huge stops, getting us the ball back. And offensively, we just couldn't make the plays that were necessary to be efficient. And we had plenty of chances. So got to get them fixed.
I'm telling you, Brady's hair gets a shade darker every week. Just an observation. Another observation. Did you see Bruce with his
wristband?
Play wristband
like
still
that.
on? That's the equivalent of the player showing up in uniform for the post-game press conference.
Seriously, just in case he's got to call one more play and throw a number out there or something. The Bucs, the way they played, I mean, yeah, sloppy, certainly. Inconsistent, like we've talked about. Like, really, what is their mantra? What is their identity on the offensive side of the ball? I don't really know right now. That's where I think it's a little bit all over the place. And then you see yesterday, it became a little bit in, Bradyville, short passes. We can't push the ball down the field. And that's where I'm just like, Mike, two things jumped out to me about the game last night. Didn't Tom Brady first off seem docile for a game where things were big and whatever else? I just thought Tom Brady, like, where was the fire that we usually see? I don't know. Maybe that was just me, but usually he starts swearing on the sidelines and gets people going. I felt like he was a little off that way. But the other thing I came to last night, the style of play where they're going to put him in shotgun and expect him to make plays and do all that, that's over. Like, Tom Brady is at 43. He's not going to carry your team doing that stuff anymore. They can't play that style of football. You know, he can't move. Brian Griese showed a package of pressure on Tom Brady, and I wanted to go, where's the pressure? He's standing in the pocket patting the ball 3 times. But, you know, he can't move. He can't do anything, and I just don't know if it's in him anymore to carry the team against those great defenses, the better defenses. And that's where I don't understand the shotgun, throw it every play approach by the Bucs in certain weeks. Sorry for the long talk there.
No. And he got banged around a good bit. Again, I think this tension of trying to prove that they can stretch the field may have infected this week's game plan. Bruce Arians was asked last night after the loss whether or not he would consider taking over play calling from Byron Leftwich. And, you know, that hadn't been even on the radar screen before, but I think it speaks to what you're saying. They got away from what works. They're getting caught up in the moment. Arians said, no, this isn't on the coaching, it's on the players executing. They need to provide more time to Tom Brady. He blamed the first interception on Brady getting hit. He called the second interception a bad read, which is what it was. And Brady said the same thing. And you're right, the fire wasn't there. And you know, the Bucs are now 1-3 in prime time, but I think the bigger issue is that they're 1-4 in big games.
Yeah.
Because take the Giants win at night out of the mix.
Right.
That's not a big game, all due respect to the Giants. But in the big spot games, the 4:25 p.m. Eastern games or the primetime games, their only win was against the Green Bay Packers once they were down 10-0. Every other time they've been in that big spot, it's a loss. To the Saints, week 1. 3 times now in primetime to the Bears, to the Saints again, and last night to the Rams. And they've got the Chiefs coming up this Sunday at 4:25 p.m. Eastern, and they are staring down the barrel of another loss, which will drop them to 6-5. They are losing their big games.
Yeah.
No, 6-5. They're 6-5.
7-5.
7-5.
Yes.
Oh, all right. Well, 6-5.
They didn't get their bye week. Remember, they're having that famous late bye week. It's all right. All good.
Okay.
Yep.
7-5. But regardless, they're still in danger of definitely not winning the division. I already can congratulate the New Orleans Saints on winning the NFC South. That ship has sailed for the Buccaneers, no pun intended. Now they just have to jockey for wild card position, and then they have to see what assignment they're going to draw, 2 seed, 3 seed, 4 seed, who they're going to have to play on the road in the opening round of the postseason.
Yeah, well, you know, you want to win, of course, to get in the playoffs, and then, you know, as we've discussed, I think off air a little bit, you'd love to be that number 5 seed in the playoffs this year. You know, to be that team that, okay, we didn't win the division, we don't get to host the game, but we get to go to Philly and play them out of all the teams. That's what you'd want this year, or whoever comes out of the NFCs. How dare I say it's Philly, like it's locked in there. I mean, who knows? So, yes, you're going to be playing a lesser team. Seattle right now is licking their chops going, oh, wow, we're all right, we're not winning the division, but on the road, whatever, against the NFC East, we like that. But, yes, the Tampa Bay Bucs right now, you know, Mike, first off, what you hit on to start there, I mean, agreed. You know, that first interception, trying to throw the post down the middle, that was totally a week of hearing talk through the media talk heads, people like us, all the focus on, hey,
they don't listen to us.
Mike Evans has been open down the field. Yeah, they listen. They do, and you know it. And that to me was forced. At no point was Chris Godwin open. Like, Godwin threw his hand up, too, and I want to be, why are you throwing your hand up? The guy's got you beat right now. He's still a step in front of you. And then Brady just made his mind up, like, I'm throwing it. It was open all week in practice. I'm going to get everybody off my back. And, you know, to say that, yeah, he got hit as he was throwing, but this is, to me, again, and I know I seem like a Tom Brady hater, but I don't really care. I keep it real with everybody. You know, he's allowed to slide and move out of the way every now and then, you know. The rules haven't changed. I checked the rule book. I know he's Tom Brady, and we're not allowed to say anything about him. But every other quarterback in football would have been told, hey, you need to slide and then throw the ball. You know, but we make up excuses for him on TV, everything like that. And, you know, that was pitiful play last night. There's no other way to say that about Brady and the Bucs and the way they played that football game, especially in the second half, I mean.
It's almost like he was trying to throw his way onto someone's top 10 quarterback list. Not that they pay attention to that either. And then there was that weird moment in the second half when it felt like the dam was about to break for the Rams.
Yeah.
And Brady had the ball in the end zone, and it happened so fast, and the ball was out, and they blew it dead. And I wasn't happy with the ruling on the field. I wasn't happy, frankly, with the way the broadcast handled it. I wasn't happy with John Perry's explanation. I wasn't happy with the fact that the ruling on the field was upheld with hardly any analysis or discussion or common sense.
What?
That was a fumble.
He got
That was
lucky.
a fumble.
He just got lucky. I mean, that it was close. But that was a superstar call, which is BS because a lot of other quarterbacks don't get that. I don't get that. And John Perry, damn, the last time the Rams played the Buccaneers, Tom Brady and them, they were in the Super Bowl, he yelled at Aaron Donald for tackling Tom Brady too hard. So they're all Brady. Greasy went to college with Brady. It was excuse after excuse after excuse for Tom Brady last night. That's all I heard. Excuse, blah, 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 blah. But, yeah, that was a big moment, certainly. That really was. I mean, that could have cost them the football game. But either way, yeah, even in that moment, the pressure, I understand. It was around people who were around him there. But this is why, to me, the Tampa Bay Bucs can't play that, shotgun, we're going to drop back and rely on Brady. No, they need to do other things to keep people off of Brady. Brady can't move like he used to. This isn't the New England system where McDaniels and Belichick have 97 million ways to throw the ball 6-7 yards and let Brady dissect people and get the ball out of his hands quickly. There's some of that, but that's not all there. And that, to me, is the other thing, too, that's, kind of lost in translation. Still the merging of that offense with the Arians-Leftwich offense. And Leftwich and Arians, Mike, they're not that way. They're not famous for having offenses of going 12 plays, 80 yards, and we're surgical. Bruce is, no risk it, no biscuit. He's more famous for, 5-play, 80-yard drives where on 1 or 2 plays it was a 30 or 40-yard type gain. So I still think they're trying to hash those issues out too, and that's where I think it's a detriment to think that they could just put Tom Brady back there and let him toss it all around the lot all game long, especially against the better teams in football.
Is it simple enough to look at this and say that Brady understood it's a big spot? Remember 2 years ago, that Monday night before Thanksgiving, it was the Rams and the Chiefs. It was that classic game that everyone was buzzing about the rest of the week. Do you think Brady kind of willed Byron Leftwich into dialing up those plays? Is that rather than sticking to what worked last week,
right,
where you run the ball, and throw it efficiently off a play action, Brady wanted to come out and be a gunslinger. I mean, really, is that how it happens? Does it become the star quarterback? And I feel like we've had this conversation before where the star quarterback overpowers the coaching staff to do something that isn't in the coaching staff's interest because the star quarterback wants it that way.
No doubt. That does go on. He could let it be known without, putting a stake in the ground or planting a flag in the ground that, hey, I'm not comfortable with these type of plays. I like these type of plays, all of that. Last week in the Carolina game, even though the stats were good, right, there was a number of big throws down the field that were missed. So maybe there was some talk there about, again, that's not my MO. That's not what I'm great at this point in my career. I don't know. But what I found fascinating just purely from the football matchup aspect of it too was going, man, the Rams, their defense, they're predicated on speed and running around and the pass rush and doing all that. And to me, that's where I was like, the Bucs are kind of playing right into their hands. They're playing a Rams type of game. The Rams struggle when it kind of becomes ugly and, you play them in a phone booth and do that type of stuff. But to throw the ball, this is the second best pass defense in football. It's the number 1 defense in football. If there's anything that to slow down Aaron Donald in that rush, it's been run game and teams like that. So that to me is where I tend to think what you're saying might be true, that yes, there was a lot of talk about, no, I like to do this and I want to throw these type of throws and I don't necessarily want to do that double tight end, play action, hold the ball type of offense. And I just wonder if there's a butting of the heads there in that department.
Ronald Jones had 10 rushes for 24 yards, 2.4 yards per carry. Leonard Fournette had 7 for 17, 2.4 yards per carry. And then Antonio Brown had the one other rushing attempt, 1 yard on a jet sweep. They seemed on one drive to really be trying to get the ball to him over and over again, and that didn't give them the spark, although he was targeted 13 times, more than anyone else last night by Tom Brady, 8 catches for 57 yards. Mike Evans was a beast in the first half, and then they kind of got away from him. I mean, you see what he can do. He had that A.J. Brown moment to get into the end zone. I think his mentality was, I get the ball so rarely this year in comparison to how I used to get it. I'm making the most out of it every time I get it in my hands. Get out of my way. I'm scoring.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably a little bit of that aspect, yes. You know, he's getting covered by a really good player in Jalen Ramsey. That was a fun duel to watch. And, yeah, Brady has been unable to kind of feed him consistently throughout the year. And I think there's been frustration. I know there's been frustration down there about that. And, you know, I think, again, that plays into the whole conversation that we were talking about once again. You know, Evans, his game is not 5 and 6 yard type throws and doing that. His game is 15-yard in cut, 20-yard out route, 25-yard crossing route, post route down the middle, deep curls, things like that. And those aren't things that seem to be in Brady's wheelhouse right now, too. So there's a disconnect there with, Mike Evans, his skill set, what Brady wants to do, how the offense is being called. But either way, we're sitting here talking about the Bucs. We need to probably give the Rams some more love because Sean McVay and that damn team, they're just tough and ready. All right, you don't want to go yet?
No,
okay.
We will. It's more fun to talk about the Bucs.
I like you.
Scotty
like
Miller
has
become Scotty Miller's become the forgotten man in that passing game.
Yes.
He's the guy who basically has fallen off the face of the earth now that Antonio Brown is in the mix. Gronk only had 2 catches last night. For all the throws that Tom Brady had, well, a lot of them weren't completed. 48 passes, but 26 completions. He had a 62.5 passer rating thanks to 2 interceptions and a fairly low completion percentage in comparison to what we're seeing now. We're seeing guys 65, 70%. Yeah. And I really do feel like he wanted to showcase himself on a big night, big spot, a big weekend. Patrick Mahomes played the night before. Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson were in primetime on Thursday night. Surely these guys think of things like that. There is an element of vanity, as evidenced by the ever-darkening hair. There is an element of that for Tom Brady. And I think that took over last night. And that's where Bruce Arians has to really assert himself. He can't just sit back in the golf cart and fold his arms and let it all unfold. He needs to spot when one of these weeks it feels like maybe Tom is trying to bend it more towards something that isn't going to work.
Right.
And now going into this game against the Chiefs on a short week, I think it's incumbent on Arians to say, look, we have to figure out what's going to work against this defense, and it's not going to be Tom Brady throwing the ball 48 times, period.
No, exactly right. There's going to have to be maybe a moment of reckoning where they finally just sit down. I don't know what's going on there in that conversation, but all I can say is from what I see on film and watching last night, to me, there does seem to be a disconnect about where the offense wants to go and what they're doing. And like we talked about, no identity. And, Mike, everything you're saying, I mean, to me, everything aligns to a little bit of that. Just let me get in the shotgun and throw it, and I'll pick them apart and do those type of things. Well, hey, the Rams don't ever blitz. They're phenomenal in the secondary. Brandon Staley, the defensive coordinator, I mean, he's one of those guys to say, watch out. He's going to be a head coach in 2 years, okay? He's killing it. That wasn't the way to beat them and do that. And that's where I just think when, you get back to it, that's where I go, yeah, is Brady getting such influence on the game plan that it's, taking away maybe from what Leftwich and Bruce Arians want to do? I don't know the answer to that, but what I see on the field, it does tell me that I think there's a little bit of an issue or a clash of styles there.
And it ultimately may not be an issue that is going to be addressed by Bruce Arians. There's a belief in Tampa that everything this year is about making sure Brady chooses to play next year when they can sell tickets, when they can fill the stadium, when they can truly embrace the presence of Tommy that they haven't been able to embrace this year. Among all the many cruel ironies of the pandemic, the Buccaneers, a team that's had serious trouble reaching capacity over the past 15 years, they finally have a reason for people to flood the box office and show up and fill the stadium, and they're not able to do it. They want to be able to do it next year. So let's keep Tommy happy so he chooses to play for us again next year. And that may be the thing that overtakes whether or not you beat the Rams or beat the Chiefs or even make the playoffs, because next year is going to be the big promotional push to make as much money as possible, and the hell with whether or not we actually are any good. We just want to sell all the tickets, sell all the jerseys, and make all the money. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
No.
They don't want us to peel back and tell you that's the way it is, folks. They just want us to sit here and say football is family. They want to make money. And having Tom Brady as the quarterback next year is going to ensure that the Buccaneers will make a hell of a lot more money than they're making this year, because next year they're going to fill that stadium every week if Tom comes back.
Yeah, I listen, Mike. I mean, you're right. There's definitely that aspect that goes on, and this aspect specifically to this football team, because of all the things you mentioned. You're right, and they're starving for franchise quarterback down there in Tampa Bay. I mean, they love the Bucs. It's a great fan base. Yeah, it might not be rich and be able to buy luxury suites and do all that, but they love it. And, you know, they were tortured with people like me as their franchise quarterback for years and years, and they finally got a guy there that's the real deal, and they can't go see him.
I tried not to go there.
It's okay. I'll go there. You know me. Like I said, I keep it real no matter what, even if it's talking trash about myself.
All right, let's throw some praise.
Oh, hey, Rams, good job last
Rams.
night. We got to go to commercial
23
break now.
minutes in. No, let's talk about the Rams for a little bit. Let's first hear from Coach Sean McVay about the performance of the side of the ball that he typically has no involvement in whatsoever, the defense.
Defensively, a lot of confidence. I thought our defense played outstanding. Really, the one drive they ended up getting was a result of the turnover from the offense. And, they just continue to do such a great job of being able to settle in. Obviously, Tom has such great command. You have a lot of respect for their perimeter players, and you see why they've given so many people problems. But wasn't nervous, was more confident, but just seeing those guys come through in the clutch was big time for our team.
I don't know what they're putting in his Gatorade. I wish I had that energy.
He loves,
especially at midnight.
He's like, he's like a Gruden or anything like we've always said. He's a psycho in a good way. He loves it. He eats it up. He's probably up already right now, like breaking down the film and being like, "Hey, play 69, man. We got to get this better next week. We got to play better." I mean, he loves it. He lives it, and it shows. Their football team every week. We talk about it. They always show up. They're always ready to compete. It might not always be the prettiest football game or whatever, but they are never asleep at the wheel and never not ready to compete and bust you in the mouth, and that's because they got a psycho, like you just saw there, that brings energy every day.
We keep looking for a complete team, a team that gets it done on both sides of the ball, and even though the Rams' offense isn't as electric as it was a couple of years ago, the defense really has improved. Remember in the offseason, they let Wade Phillips go, and we're like, what in the hell are the Rams thinking? Wade Phillips, defensive mastermind, what are you doing? You're taking a step back here. Your team's not going to be any good this year, and they have just kind of quietly plugged away. It's going to be hard to hide now that they are in first place in the division, and look at where they are from a defensive standpoint. Points allowed per game, second in the league. Total yards allowed per game, first in the league. They're in the top 5 in all those categories. The only thing they're not in the top 5 in the total takeaways with 15. The takeaways will come, though, as teams get more desperate. They had those 2 last night. And This is an ingredient. We know that in the AFC, it's the Steelers and the Chiefs, or the Chiefs then the Steelers. In the NFC, we don't know.
No, we don't.
It changes every week.
Right.
And it's the Saints now, but the Rams are there.
They're
too.
coming. You're right.
And, not long ago it was the Seahawks, then it was the Bucs, then it's the Packers. But right now it's the Saints with the Rams, maybe not even behind. 1A and 1B, Saints and Rams right now, with the Saints obviously holding the edge because they're 8-2. But the Rams are a team that needs to be taken seriously. They still have 2 games against the Cardinals coming up, which should be great games. And the Rams have an opportunity to take off in that division.
Yeah, they do. They got, You know, they got everything you need to be a real contender, get to the Super Bowl, do all that. I mean, we've had this conversation, you know, like you said, weekly about the NFC. What teams are the most complete? You know, who's really that way? There's flaws with, you know, Green Bay, Seattle. The Rams, you know, Mike, really, like what is it? What would you say is their biggest flaw? I mean, again, I'm going to sound like a hater here, but I think probably the biggest flaw is a little bit of just I'm a little scared of Jared Goff at times. I mean, he didn't exactly make me feel warm and cozy last night. The numbers are going to look good, but the way he played in the second half was certainly a little shaky there. But after that, okay, and I'm not like terribly scared about him either. I mean, I know it's not like perfect last night, but still we know they can win and get to a Super Bowl with him and do those type of things. After that, I just go, man, there's not a real glaring weakness to any area of their football team. And that, you know, speaks to McVay. And like you said, Brandon Staley, what he's doing on that defensive side of the ball. It's creative. It's sound. They don't ever have to blitz. So they always got just the 4 rushing and 7 back in coverage. And you see it gave Brady seen every defense in the world. It gave him issues last night. So they're a major player. And you're right, we probably need to take them a lot more seriously and give them a lot more love than we have been.
And the question with Goff was 2 years ago and continues to be, will he make the big play in the big spot? We broke it down 50 different ways when Brandon Cooks was wide-ass open, as Bruce Arians would say, in the end zone on a play that they used in the first half of the Super Bowl. They used it in the second half when clearly they spent some of that 25 minutes telling him we're going to do it again, he's going to be open again, and this time we're going to score a touchdown. Can he be counted on to make the big throw in the big spot, just like Garoppolo last year? And that's the question, right? And maybe you don't need the big throw in the big spot if your defense is that good and your offense is as efficient as it was last night. 51 passes, 39 completions. He hit Robert Woods 12 times, Cooper Kupp 11 times. The average air yards was 5 per throw. So it wasn't a lot of stuff down the field. And one thing Sean McVay said, they were hoping they'd have a breakthrough with explosive plays. You don't need them. If you have the receivers who can take the short pass and take it for 10 or 15 yards after the catch and puff up the quarterback stats, you don't need that. If it's there, take it. But at some point, they're going to need Goff to make a big play on his own. It's going to be 3rd and 5, down 3 points with, 2 minutes left.
Sure.
Can he convert on that third down, keep a drive alive? Whatever the case may be, they're going to need him to make a big throw at some point. And the question is, will he step up this time? Will those 2 years since he didn't make the big throw in Super Bowl 53, will that iron itself out when it's time for him to do it again?
Yeah.
So, and he's still, look, he's playing extremely well.
He is.
The whole team's playing extremely well.
Right.
But to the extent that every team has a flaw, I agree with you. Can you count on Goff when the game or the season is riding on his ability to make that throw?
Yeah, that's the big question. I mean, he runs that offense. He does a lot of good things. He's got a lot of pressure on him. They're always trying to change plays, do things like that. So you're right. It's not all about him having to deliver plays. There's so many other things about the offense, and he just needs to be the commander of the ship there, really, and make sure it all goes the right way. And there's encouraging things about last night, too. I mean, of course, hey, you see the numbers. Hey, throwing down the middle of the field, the drop-back pass game and stuff, certainly had some big moments there. That was encouraging. And, Mike, I don't even know. It's like, we've seen him deliver in the big moments. We've seen him not deliver in the big moments. I think the big thing I take away from a game last night is just like, not that you have to deliver in those moments, but, man, don't deliver those type of mistakes in those moments. That, to me, was a little bit of the disheartening thing there, and that comes about with him every now and then where you just go, man, you played too much football to make that mistake or panic on a screen pass and throw the ball 8 feet to the right of the running back because there's just
directly to Jason Pierre-Paul.
Right, like there's
directly
people around you and you don't know, and you're just going to throw it. And then, even the second interception, a good play by the safety, but there's rules with quarterbacks. Certain coverages, you don't throw certain routes against, this coverage. In cut versus a quarter safety. It's a no-no. I've thrown my interceptions off that. I certainly haven't played, like Jared Goff, but, those are just ones where you just go, man, come on. It's a defensive game. Their offense is incapable of doing anything right now. don't do that type of stuff. Normally he doesn't. He's still a real good quarterback, but yes, I tend to still question whether he can carry them when need be in a big moment, certainly.
And those mistakes, if the Tampa Bay offense had been hitting on all cylinders last night, would have been fatal.
Definitely.
That was the difference. And again,
Right.
you got to give credit to the Rams defense,
Yeah.
but the Bucs got away from what they did so well against the Carolina Panthers, and that really, it just felt like it was sputtering, that it was grasping, that it just couldn't make it happen in the second half. And it still was a closer game than I thought it was going to be, and I keep going back to that play. There aren't many moments like that in the course of a football season where, while watching a primetime game, I'm like, are my eyes working? Is my brain working? But that fumble was a fumble. That play that was quickly called incomplete. Remember, we hear all the time, let the play go before you blow the whistle. Where did that happen?
Yeah.
Last night? It didn't. I mean, that should have. We got an exciting finish out of it, but it should have been Rams up 14, and that probably would have been it for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Well, unfortunately, and I know you've heard me say this, like during Sunday games, the athletic, strong, young quarterback gets no calls when it comes to that type of stuff, getting hit, unnecessary roughness. The pocket, I can't move type quarterback seems to always get the benefit of all those calls. That bothers me a little bit. And I'm talking about, apples to apples. Yes, they're in the pocket. People are around them. It's like the young stud, the referees are like, he can take it. And then some of the older, he can't move it. They're like, hey, you better be careful. He can't get out of the way so quick. That's not nice. And that's BS. That's BS. And I feel like between Brady being a superstar and that aspect, that's what happened last night.
Remember when Cam Newton claimed that Ed Hockley said to him, you're not old enough to get those calls?
Right.
Remember that?
Yes, exactly. Cam Newton's the perfect one. I mean, people headhunt him, and everyone's just like, he's okay. He's can't big. Hurt him. He's a Greek god. Yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, he's hurt every single year because he keeps getting hit, and everybody thinks he's indestructible, including him. Who would you rather face in the playoffs, the Rams or the Bucs?
The Bucs right now, definitely. Yeah, the Bucs. The defense. Again, last night dominant in the second half, but this weird thing of where they play a little bit like hesitant, prevent-ish early in games, and then it takes them like, okay, this is what they're doing, and then they get aggressive. But the inconsistencies of the Bucs and all that, and I think just the issues on the offensive side of the ball, yeah, I'd rather play them right now than the Rams. The Rams, as you talked about, there's just not many weaknesses to them.
All right, your defense is in a got-to-make-a-stop situation. Would you rather the quarterback be Tom Brady or Jared Goff right now?
I'd probably still go Brady. I probably would. Yes.
You'd rather he be the quarterback that you face?
I'd probably
You're the defense. You got to stop him.
You got to.
He's Tom Brady. He's the GOAT.
Yeah, I know. I would. No, yeah, I would. If I was, you're asking me what quarterback I'd want in a big moment against a good defense. I would probably still want Brady over Goff. That's what you're asking.
You're the defense. Who do you want to face? So you'd rather face Goff than Brady. Is that what you're saying? I'm sorry I didn't ask the question.
No, yeah, I think so. Yes, I think that's right. I would. Okay. Brady's ability to throw the ball, do those things, I think still scares me than Goff. Goff's is more predicated on, the offense. And like you talked about, it's 5 yards to throw. You see the offense sputter in the second half. A lot of that is just because the Bucs take away all the bullcrap throws, for lack of a better phrase. The screens, the wide receiver screens, all those type of things where, listen, I don't put a lot of stock into that as far as quarterback evaluating and go, oh my gosh, what a great throw 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage for a gain of 20 yards. Wow, you're the only guy in football that could do that.
I think Brady can still rise to the moment.
I do too.
He can't get to the moment.
Yeah.
He's got to get to the moment.
Right.
That's the problem. It's the nuts and bolts, drive in and drive out, throw in and throw out where he's not what he used to be, whether that's he's still getting comfortable with Tampa Bay and their offense, whether it's the coaching isn't as aggressive as maybe it was in New England. Maybe there's a benefit to having a coach who is willing to call you out in front of your teammates relentlessly. It's one thing for Bruce Arians to sit at a press conference and say, yeah, that interception was his fault. But I'm talking about aggressive coaching points that will make
with
you
everybody
better,
and everybody,
not just blaming you. Yeah, not just blaming you for a mistake when everyone knows it was his fault, but telling him what he needs to hear so he does better the next time and designing game plans aimed at getting the most out of the players that he has. That's the challenge now for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as they have Patrick Mahomes coming to town in just 5 days.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.